Welcome back to The Edge. Google research paper reveals a shortcoming in search. WordPress proposes blocking FLoC by default, and Google postpones page experience update rollouts. You're listening to News from The Edge, the week of April 19th, 2021, here on Edge of the Web Radio.
From the Edge of the Web studios, here's what we're looking at this week.
Yeah, my voice went like 3 octaves there.
You went higher register.
I did. I really did. I punched it.
Nice.
Woo! All right. This is Edge of the Web Radio. I'm your host, Aaron Sparks, owner of Site Strategics. Every week we bring you some amazing guests to chat with about digital marketing topics and trends. And each week we're covering SEO and digital marketing news separate from our interview podcast each week that we drop every Tuesday as best as we can, early morning, getting more news to you even quicker so you can manage your digital marketing week. So be sure to check out everything over at edgeoftheweb.radio.com. All the recent shows, audio, all the blog content, everything, all the show links that we're covering each and every week. It's all right there, edgeoftheweb.radio.com. And join the newsletters, free of you. Free. How do we say that? There's no charge.
It's free.
It is free. Who charges?
This English is hard.
It really is. Who charges for a newsletter anyway? Why would I even say that? Give us $25
Words
and
are
we'll
hard.
email. Words are concepts like that. I tell you what, are just stumbling blocks for me. This is Edge of Web. Thanks very much for joining us. If you haven't come across us before, this is probably not the show to listen to or watch, evidently. This is the Site Strategics Digital Marketing News Desk here, title sponsor of Edge of the Web. Joining me with his take on, evidently, my speech patterns is Morty Oberstein, SEO liaison over at Wix. Morty, how are you doing?
Fire bad. Newsletter good.
Putting on the Ritz. All right. If
Just went Phil Hartman on you.
Yep, there you go. Appreciate it.
You got it.
Well, what's happening in Morty's world this week?
Oh, Morty's world.
We really
let's
do
go.
need that. Morty's world.
Good news out of
Morty's
Wix.
world.
Good news out of suspicious but good folk. You did it.
Yes.
You did. I got added to John Mueller's list of suspicious but good folk.
Yep.
I'm, I think, one of 4 people to make it to that list. So I'm honored to thank the Academy for this honor.
And that is his lower third now, so permanent.
Right, that's it. That's my official title. I'm going to change my emails. On my emails or on my official stuff, Wix updated its platform. You can now update, customize your, that'll come out. Twitter,
Words.
your Twitter share. So your titles, the description that you show on your Twitter cards, and the size of your Twitter cards.
Oh.
For somebody who loves Twitter,
and you do.
that's right up my alley.
Absolutely. So you can change your different cards? Can you do all?
Yeah, we
also
used
that
to
with
pull in the
Facebook?
OG.
Yeah.
So it would show that the title or the description you put into the OG.
Yep.
But it would be the small little card.
Yep.
Yeah, but now you
Excellent.
get the big. You can decide big card or small card. Why you would go small card, I don't know. Always go big card.
No, for the ones that are not nearly as confident, right?
I guess.
Go small card. We had small Morty on the screen a couple minutes ago.
There's a big Morty.
I was asking the same question.
Like,
He's
where's this going?
I have no idea. See, guys, so sorry, folks. It's been a week, and it's only Tuesday. All right,
man.
so let's look at the first article by Roger Monti over at Search Engine Journal. Google's research paper reveals a shortcoming in search. Say it ain't so. New research highlights a little-known area of information retrieval that Google hasn't really quite succeeded in, and that's the long-form question answering. All right. Let's jump into this because it's going to be a bumpy ride here. So, what is this all about? So, a recent research paper on long-form question answering illustrates how difficult it is to actually answer questions that need longer and nuanced answers. While researchers are able to improve the state of the art of this kind of question answering, they also admitted that their results need some significant improvements. So, what are we talking about here? Long-form open domain question answering, an area that natural language processing continues to see improvements on, this is part of the research focus here in this document. Search engines are really good at what's called factoid open domain question answering, or simple open domain question answering. So I'm going to park right there. Morty, what's the difference here? What are we talking about from an open domain question answering function?
I mean, to put it really, really, really simply, to oversimplify it, you're talking about, let's say, a short tail keyword versus a long tail keyword. So
Sure.
What's the weather outside versus I don't know. I don't have a good long tail for the weather. What are the weather trends in the Southern Hemisphere during the summertime at 9 o'clock at night? Terrible example.
It really is. Yeah, you should have been
Really,
prepared.
like I could not have done worse with that.
So an open domain, I'll try this, and it's kind of steer towards Roger's article. What color is the sky? The sky is blue. Very simple open domain question, right? The more nuance that you're talking about, right? These additional parameters, these additional filters of nuance, that's where things get a little bit hairy. And we all know this from trying out our smart speaker, our Echo or our home device. Whenever you're trying to ask anything with any level of complexity, it comes back with a wrong answer again and again until we just decide to unplug the bloody thing, right?
I haven't even used one of those in forever.
Don't try. I mean, you can get so far, but they keep on hitting the same block, and that's part of what we're talking about. There's not a connection on these more sophisticated, more nuanced levels of granularity, right?
Right. I mean, that's, it's interesting because if you look at the questions that Roger has there in the article, they're interesting. Like, where was it? What goes on in those tall buildings owned by major banks? That's a very, very specific and somewhat bizarre question. And I would imagine anybody would have a hard time answering because I don't really understand it. Or why do Britain, other English empire countries still bow to monarchs?
Holy crap.
What real purpose does the Queen serve? Oh, that's a good question for you, Aaron, because your mother is English.
Oh, come on.
And the answer is none.
Well,
the answer is none.
Well, according to the Brits, no. But
I'm sorry to our English audience. I apologize, stupid American Morty.
Literally going to say that the week of the last week was a funeral, man. I mean, come
so
on.
Insensitive. Also very American of me. Very insensitive. God save the Queen and the rest of that messed up family. Anyway,
you cannot unbury yourself there. Okay.
And you just made a berry joke. Good job.
He keeps on creeping up everywhere.
Poor
all right.
Philip, rolling over in his shallow grave they just put him in. Anyway, oh boy. That's going down wrong.
Yeah.
Let's walk that back. Let's walk that back. I love the royal family. They're great people.
I don't buy it for a minute.
Anyway, holy crap. Just said that. Anyway, you have to wonder, like, because I've done a lot of long tail queries. I've done research on long tail queries, and I've seen that Google does get it right a lot of the time.
Right.
So it's interesting to see like where that line is, where exactly the problem is. I don't have a good answer to that because that's really where you get practical, workable information or knowledge from, where you can say, okay, where does Google have a hard time? Where don't they have a hard time? Because clearly they are able to answer long tail queries really well.
Sure.
There are many, many very good feature snippets that show up when you search for something, a little bit more nuanced or long tail to buy into that sort of generality. So where that line is, where Google does, because they're admitting, they're saying, hey, we have a harder time, and that makes good sense.
Mm-hmm.
Where that line is really important, and I don't think anybody knows.
Well, part of the problem is the long form question answering is harder because the questions demand answers that are a longer string of characters, paragraphs, right? As opposed to a short type of answer based on that short set of parameters with a more open domain question, right?
Yeah, you could like in these questions here, you're throwing a twist and a turn, right? You're throwing in what goes on in these tall buildings? Well, what does go on? What are you talking about? Tall buildings, which tall buildings are you talking about? Then you say owned by major banks, like what buildings are those?
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of twists and turns that are theoretically, I think, I would say like this, like when you're asking a very straightforward question, even though it's very detailed and nuanced or long tail,
right?
I think Google does a good job with that. But where you throw in some kind of like twist and turn into the question itself, I think that's where you're going to find Google has a harder time, which makes a great deal of sense because Again, I don't even know what the hell this question's asking.
So is how the question actually is working is it's not the string of characters, because you could always look at a question as a long tail query, but it's the pivots.
It's the pivots. Yeah.
Of the different operant terms in that question and the additional nuance that is more and more difficult to express and be able to answer. Now that's where BERT also comes in, because those were those transformer connectors between queries. So BERT rolled out a couple of years back, and there's
Hey, BERT.
and there's constant evolution of it. So we're going to see more and more engineering to be able to define those nuances. But at the same time, how many answers are we really going to be able to see with, there's so many of these possible questions that have such a long tail. We're actually trained to go short tail because of what our experience is with search, and then be able to modify queries as the results come back, right? So
I think that's getting better. I think people are, I feel comfortable, I could say personally, because I don't have any data on this, but I would say personally, I feel very comfortable asking a long tail kind of query and expecting Google to give me good results back. There have been very niche things. I think it's more of, in this case, the niche factor of the question, not the length of the question per se, but very niche specific things that Google had a hard time with. And that hasn't happened to me in a while.
It's because you put such emphasis on niche.
Niche.
All right, so
I went higher register for niche.
Yeah, you really did. Check out the article. We're not doing it nearly as much justice because we got stuck into the niche right here. But a good deal of citations regarding Google AI blog posts, the PDF version of the actual research paper, and on top of that, Facebook webpage about LFQA. So watch for that, because there is a connection to the passage indexing that we were talking about here at the tail end of last year. Because if you're indexing passages, those are the results
ranking.
Ranking. I'm sorry, not indexing. Yeah.
See, everybody
Good
job,
it.
Google, calling it passage indexing.
If you're ranking that, it could very well be that next answer to these LFQAs, because now you have much larger basket to be able to choose from for those more nuanced niche questions, right?
Yeah, look, the Google's passage ranking. I almost said indexing.
You did, man.
Because that's what it came out originally as. Passage ranking is basically Google telling you that we're really able to understand the finer details of a page in order to build understanding of it. So you have to imagine that being able to understand a page to that level gives you the ability to answer more detailed, more nuanced questions.
That's right.
It's really, to me, one and the same. So that's what I mean. Like, you have things like that happen, like passage ranking happening, and that's sort of technology being developed, which speaks to the opposite of what this article is talking about. Not that the article, I think, is wrong in any way, shape, or form, because it's Google telling you this.
Right.
But it's not like it's not a very simple answer, because there are ways that Google's very good at it, and times where Google is not very good at it.
Vacillate a little bit more there, Morty.
Should I?
No, not really.
I could try.
So I think we've done this incredible injustice to this article.
Go read it. Roger did a good job.
Roger did a good job trying to break that apart. But I think what we're going to be seeing here, we're not trained for asking these complexities, but as Google learns, as the AI learns these pivot points, we're going to be able to see our next set of results, understanding your intent to a greater detail than ever before. So that's kind of in the works there, guys, and that's probably the best way I could address that. Just check it out and see what happens on that niche, nuanced LFQA.
You'll be able to ask a question like an absolute moron, and Google will be able to understand it.
Yes, exactly. That's a quotable moment. All right. So what the FLoC is happening over here on SEL from George Wynn? WordPress proposes blocking FLoC. See what I meant? See what I did there? By default, it's estimated that 40% of all the sites on the internet use WordPress, which is a huge factor. If the proposal is actually implemented, it would be a devastating blow to Google's ad targeting capabilities. So what is FLoC? FLoC is a factor of what Google's trying to do to eliminate third-party cookies by actually tagging your behavior as similar to other users without actually tracking you individually. That's the best generality I can give it. It's the answer to the third-party cookie replacement. So by a proposal is actually being put forth by default, WordPress sites would actually not honor the FLoC, the Federated Learning of Cohorts functionality here. So 40% of all sites on the internet would not be able to provide data back based on those behavioral characteristics that are mapped to you. Matt Mullenweg, CEO at WordPress's parent company Automatic, has emphasized that the decision has not been made yet. It's more correct to say, quote unquote, that there's a proposal from a WordPress contributor to block FLoC by default. So this is not coming from the top down, it's coming from a contributor in the space. So I haven't actually asked your opinion on FLoC, Morty. So give me your two takes on that, and then what would this mean if all of WordPress would just block that?
I mean, look, so FLoC, which I always think of flock of seagulls every time I see this.
Yep,
by the way,
exactly.
It's a weird association. I get that. The problem, right? So they're trying to bucket you. That didn't come out right either. But they're trying to put you into a bucket,
right? So
that the ads you're getting are by the grouping that you're in, by the bucket that you're in versus your specific data. Does it really solve the problem? I don't know. There's a lot of debate about this. Right. But again, and I think Matt brought this up, as, hey, is this, sort of a dirty trick? Ooh, did I go there? I just did. Anyway, it's sort of like, hey, you're still not really solving the problem, right? And that you could end up sort of targeting, let's say, minorities or the underprivileged in certain ways that are not the best practices, or not the slightly unethical to downright unethical, depending how you look at it, with the ad targeting, because you're just going to, instead of targeting one individual person, you're just going to target a whole bunch of people that way,
and basically assign the type of ads that your group would actually be more interested in seeing and interacting with.
So have you got out of the problem that way? No. You just lumped a bunch more people into another more general category that's pretty much the same damn thing that it would have been anyway. So I can understand why they, would create an automatic opt-out, if that's what you want to call it.
Right.
40%. Hey, look, that's a lot. This totally screws up Google's ability to ad target. It absolutely messes it up. Interesting to see how Google's going to reply back to this. Interesting to see if WordPress goes through with it, because that would probably piss Google off, and they have a lot of partnerships with Google now.
No, absolutely.
Lot of politics involved in this one. That's why, by the way, I'm assuming that's why Matt came out and made a statement, because there's a lot of politics involved there.
WordPress actually has joined a growing group of FLoC opponents. The Electronic Frontier Foundation's argument against FLoC has been echoed by players across different sectors of the internet. Chromium-based browsers, Vivaldi and Brave, are disabling FLoC, and DuckDuckGo's Chrome extension also blocks FLoC. So we had a conversation such a long time ago when we were talking about third-party cookies. Just allow us to opt in, not opt out, right? Don't try to categorize us with certain type of behavioral traits, because when it gets down to it, who's making those behavioral tags and categories, right? Who's making the call? Let my online behavior dictate what ads I want to be able to see, and give me the control of whether or not I want to be tagged on that particular website or the other. I mean, we should be responsible for our own history and the advertising structure that we want to see in our online experience. And that's the challenge right there, because if we're in control of it, guess what? It cannot be manipulated by the third parties, and we have no guarantee where that FLoC data is actually going to go, what advertisers are going to have it, and for what additional parameters are going to be addressed over time. I mean, it could very well be the exact same bucket that we're in, but at that point in time, we won't be able to clean our cookies out and disconnect from all of the data that's been tracking, right?
I mean, look, like I kind of feel like this whole, hey, you downloaded Chrome, you saw that you agreed to the terms of service in tiny fine print because you in some kind of like backhanded way when you saw it.
Right.
It's got to go. Like from everybody, from Facebook to Twitter to whoever. That's not the way to do business. Be upfront, be transparent, give people control. Don't try to hoodwink them in by defaults.
Right.
I just think this is going to end at some point. So you might as well, whether you're Google, whoever it is here, you might as well address it now as opposed to trying to half-ass it and just do it right the first time.
I don't want to be in a flocking bucket.
Yeah. I don't need a bucket either. It doesn't sound like a pleasant experience.
All right. Well, check out that article over at Search Engine Land. We do want to take a moment and thank our title sponsor of the show. Site Strategics is title sponsor for the news portion of our podcast lineup on a regular basis. We're pioneers in the agile digital marketing space. Our core specialties are technical SEO, core web vitals optimization, SEM, social media, conversion rate optimization, and the omni-channel media marketing that you're participating in right now. So if you're interested in what agile marketing is, it's results-based marketing that actually works. So if you're interested, give us a shout over at 877 SEO for Web or 877-736-4932. My gosh, I forgot the bloody the number again. It's right there. All right, so that's Site Strategics. Our next article, we'll want to swing back around and talk about the page experience update from Search Engine Land by Barry Schwartz. Yep, we couldn't get through the show without referencing Barry again. He's everywhere. Barry. We really need to have a bumper sticker around here. Or how many times do we count Barry in a show? You know, there's plenty. Anyway, the page experience update that we were talking about for a May release, and this is, we'll dive into this here in a deep second, will actually gradually roll out in mid-June and won't be fully alive until the end of August, reports Barry. So we were all getting geared up for Core Web Vitals Month, right? In May, and literally now we're going to be looking into slow release all the way through June into August. So what is Core Web Vitals Month? Or I should say, what is the page experience update rollout? So here's the deal, is that Google's actually going to be focusing on how well you're actually rolling out your content to their users, how fast they're actually rolling out from a number of different factors, as well as how much you shift your layout in front of the users as your page loads. So that's kind of the top 30,000 foot view of Core Web Vitals. We got a lot of links on the site to be able to check out if you're interested in what Core Web Vitals is, but they have actually postponed their rollout. So we were hearing that this was going to be a ranking factor come May of 2021, and it's still not going to be going live today. Google is actually releasing a few updates to the following. There's actually a new page experience report in Google Search Console. That's really cool. We've just checked it out here just today. It's pretty cool dashboard of Core Web Vitals data. There's also general availability for signed exchanges of all web pages. There's a mid-June rollout. They're going to be looking at the ranking changes. Ranking changes will gradually be rolling out. The AMP badge will actually begin to go away, which is interesting. Possible page experience badge will continue to be tested, but Google has not finalized plans for this badge. There's a number of additional factors that are going to be rolling out mid-June. And ultimately, we're looking at the end of August. Google will say it will finish and complete the full rollout of page experience update ranking changes by the end of August. That includes all the Core Web Vital metrics, such as LCP, FID, and CLS. All right. So it's going to be a slow cook as opposed to a dramatic, and we still don't know what the size of the ranking signal is going to be if you have a very fast or optimized Core Web Vitals delivery. What we do know is that if you've got relatively same value of content from a competitor standpoint, your Core Web Vitals signal could actually win out the day and have a higher ranking position because of it. All right, there's the long haul. Morty, what do you think about this slow drip as opposed to May Core Web Vitals month?
I guess it means Core Web Vitals is not important anymore.
Until August.
I'm just kidding. It means that you have more time to work on it, to get working on it, because the fact that Google put another report into Search Console tells you, hey, we're not screwing around.
Yep.
It's going to be there and it's going to count for something. And it's not just going to be a little tick on the old radar there.
Yeah.
It can be. I would imagine, of course, it's not going to be extreme. I don't think it's going to be extremely significant, except in very few cases. But the fact that they're investing so much in this is telling you like it's going to be substantial to whatever degree. A factor like this is substantial. It makes sense that they pushed it off. There's still a lot of outstanding questions. Look, they just fixed CLS for single page applications, right? Because the way the single page app works, if you fire, the way that the JavaScript fires, right, that it's the CLS is cumulative all the way through from when you're bouncing from page to page to page to page. So your CLS is going to stink. Right. So they just fixed that.
Yeah, they just
a week or two ago, right?
They just capped that,
right. So there's a lot of outstanding questions. If you're going to put one of the big questions for me is if they're going to put a labeling on the, I mean, it doesn't apply just to the labeling, but if you do put a label out there saying, hey, this site passes Core Web Vitals, let's say you're a site that does not have Crux data, right? So meaning that you're not seeing measurables on FID. Therefore, you cannot pass Core Web Vitals because you don't have, at least from the way the metric is being tracked or shown, FID data. So then you can't get the label.
Right.
If you can't get the label, how is that fair? You're basically penalizing me because I don't have a lot of traffic on my site.
Exactly.
Also, how do you factor in the fact that like one site on the SERP might get a boost because it passes Core Web Vitals, whereas I and my dinky little site or my wonderful little site doesn't get that theoretical boost because I'm missing that third metric. How do you handle that?
It can't be a one-to-one because of so many different variables here, but they are.
Yes, like what do you do?
It's got to be some sort of maybe proportional measure or something like that based on a number of other metrics. Not only speed, but it's also, behavior of the users on the website. They could very well get into how valuable that content is based on what they see of the user that could actually weigh into the factor. And that's a whole nother hill of beans right there.
It's a whole, no one, it's a good question. Like no one knows how, I don't know how you handle that. But it's April, we're recording this on April 20th and May is right around the corner.
Yep.
And there's no answer or something like that.
Nope.
But I think the point is the point to take away from this, and I talked to, I'm friendly with one of our engineers, Dan Shapiro, who works at Wix.
Sure. And
I talk a lot with him about Core Web Vitals because he's on the Chrome Advisory Board. And one of the things I always take away from my conversation with him is that Core Web Vitals is very much an evolving kind of metric. So how they're going to measure things, how they're going to weigh these three metrics, whether or not these will stay the three metrics or they'll be swapped out for other metrics or there'll be other metrics added on, I know has been discussed.
So these could be the
heads up.
The first generalities here, just to be able to pin down certain key concepts of user experience, but they could actually go into a whole nother level of nuance and niche. Huh?
There you go. Well, look, that's like when you go into Lighthouse, right? Or your page speed insights, there's all sorts of other metrics there.
That's right. That's right.
So those could definitely, I'm telling you, it's been one of the discussion points. I think to think of Core Web Vitals as being very static, like your typical ranking factor algorithm, blah, blah, blah kind of thing, it's the wrong way to look at it. I expect a lot more fluidity.
It's almost like you're going to have to navigate based on what they throw at us. Now, there are some key principles here. And for anybody who's listening to this that doesn't know what we're talking about, you got to look at the speed of your site. What are you actually delivering to the user? And are you impeding the user by moving things around so much? Watch the user behavior. And it's not just bounce rates. You got to see how fast different things are being delivered.
Different elements load, right? The largest contentful paint, the first contentful paint. There's all sorts of different metrics. I know FCP is not one of the Core Web Vitals, but it could be.
Yep.
going forward.
We'll certainly unpack this as we learn more. Certainly do appreciate Barry's article. It's given us a heads up that we got a little bit more time. But to your point, it's not really about when it happens. It's about knowing what's changing over time. So this time next year could very well be a whole other set of experiences and a set of credentials or metrics that we need to navigate by. So it's just going to get a little bit more rocky out there. But at least we have a slight reprieve. So everybody, optimize the heck out of your websites, watch it, measure it, use the free Lighthouse tool so you can actually get a bead on the waterfall, see what's there that you need to actually optimize for. Get prepared for
the Search Console stuff.
Yep. So this is not CWV Mageddon, but it could very well be something down the road that is going to be a heavier and heavier factor of value as it is ascribed to your ranking. So pay attention to that. Okay. You know what's also very valuable is being participant in the SEO chat each and every Thursday on Twitter at 1 p.m. Eastern. There's your tee up. Who's going to be talking?
Steven Van Vessem. You might know him as the man behind Content King, one of your favorite SEO tools.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
So what are we going to be talking about?
Fails. You should show up because he's talking about SEO fails.
SEO fails. We love that.
Yeah. It'll be a great opportunity to mock other people for their fails. No, I'm just kidding. It's the exact opposite of that. It's de-tabooing. That's not a real word.
I didn't think it would be. I was going to look that up.
Yeah, oh yeah.
How do you de-taboo something?
I don't know. But we're doing it on SEO chat this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, where we're talking about SEO. Share your SEO fails. Feel comfortable talking about them so that you can share them, learn from them, and learn from other people's.
Just be careful that you don't inadvertently harm your brand there. So you want to change the names to protect the innocent, right?
Yeah, well, you don't have to mention the name of the site, but you can mention mistakes that you've made, mistakes you've seen other people's make. But don't be an asshat about it.
But we want to see graphs. Give us some graphs too, right?
Sure, whatever you want. Just don't be an asshat.
I don't know if I can guarantee that I won't be. Hey, you've had some great some great chats in the past. So we certainly do recommend everybody jumping into SEO chat on Twitter Thursdays, 1 p.m. Eastern. We thank you very much for your humbled participation regularly on the show. Any final words for our listening audience today?
No, just thank you for inviting me again, tolerating me. I understand it's hard. Looking at my face, even if you're on the video side of this.
It's okay. There's a therapy. There's a therapy group that we all join regarding how to tolerate Morty. There is.
Also, make sure to follow or check out John Mueller's list of suspicious but good folk.
All right. Well, Morty, thank you so much. Have a great week this week, and we'll tie you down here next Monday. All right.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care. That's it for Edge this week. Want to make sure that you check out our podcast, our interview podcasts on a regular basis. I think Pedro Diaz is queued up for this week. So check out the first segment there. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as it gets updated and as we drop more and more videos into the lane there. From all of us over at Edge, stay safe, stay well, and do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.